This Easter Sunday morning, things are different than they've ever been before. We wish we could all worship together in church this Easter Sunday morning, but that's not possible. We're so thankful we can celebrate Jesus' sacrifice even though we're apart.
Normally on an Easter Sunday we include special music and different special features, but this Sunday we are going to be doing it virtually from various families' homes. So we trust that you're blessed by these items, and we just want to wish you a blessed Easter no matter where you are.
Almost 2,000 years ago, Jesus and his friends and followers were in Jerusalem preparing for the special Passover celebrations.
At the same time, the chief priests and other Jewish officials were meeting at the house of Caiaphas, the high priest, to discuss ways of capturing Jesus quietly and killing him. They wanted to kill Jesus because they hated how popular he was with the people and thought he might take some of their power away. More importantly, they did not believe that Jesus was the Son of God.
Judas, one of Jesus' 12 disciples, went to the chief priests and asked, "How much will you pay me if I betray Jesus to you?" They gave him 30 silver coins. From then on, Judas watched for a chance to betray Jesus to them.
On the first evening of the Passover ceremonies, Jesus sat eating the Passover meal with his disciples. He broke the bread, blessed it, and said, "Take this and eat it, for this is my body, which I am giving for you." He then took the cup of wine and gave thanks and said, "Drink this, all of you. This is my blood, which is poured out for you." Then he said, "One of you will betray me." The disciples asked each other, "Who would do that?" But Judas knew he was talking about him and slipped out.
Jesus and the rest of his disciples finished the meal, and when they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives, and Jesus said to them, "This very night all of you will run away from me." Peter, one of Jesus' best friends, said to him, "Even if everyone else leaves you, I never will. Even if I have to die with you, I will never let you down." "I tell you the truth," Jesus answered, "tonight, before the rooster crows, you will say 3 times that you don't know me."
Then Jesus took his disciples to a place called Gethsemane and said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray. Pray for strength against temptation." He went a little way from them, knelt down, and started to pray. "God, my Father, if it is possible, please take this burden from me. But do what you want, not what I want."
When he came back, his disciples were still asleep, so he told them, "Wake up, it is nearly time for the Son of Man to be betrayed by sinners. Here comes my betrayer."
After he left the meal, Judas had gone to the high priests and made arrangements with them and the soldiers about how they would know Jesus. "The one who I kiss is the one to arrest," he said. When they arrived where Jesus and his disciples were, Judas went up to Jesus and kissed him and said, "Greetings, teacher." And with that, the soldiers arrested Jesus.
Jesus was taken to the court of the high priest, the teachers of the law, and to the Jewish elders. The priests and the leaders brought lots of witnesses who told lies about Jesus. But nothing could be proved, and Jesus would not say anything to defend himself. Finally, the high priest said to him, "I ask you under oath, "Are you the Son of God?"
Jesus replied, "You say that I am."
Then the high priest said, "He has spoken against God. Do we need any more witnesses?" The other priests replied, "He should die for what he has said."
To sentence someone to death, the Jewish leaders had to have the Roman governor's permission. They took Jesus before the Roman governor Pilate, who asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus replied, "Those are your words." The priests and the chief elders then began accusing him, and still Jesus did nothing to defend himself, which amazed Pilate.
Pilate didn't know what to do with Jesus, because he didn't think he had done anything wrong. He sent him to the Jewish king Herod. Herod made fun of him, and Herod's soldiers beat Jesus up. Then Herod sent Jesus back to Pilate, as he didn't know what to do with Jesus either. Both men knew Jesus was innocent.
Pilate asked the people, "What do you want me to do with Jesus, who is called King of the Jews?" They answered back, led by the priests, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Pilate asked them, "Why? What crime has he committed?" But they shouted even louder, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" When Pilate saw that he was getting nowhere, he took some water and washed his hands in front of the crowd to say that Jesus' innocent blood would not be on his hands. Then Pilate handed Jesus over to be crucified.
The governor's soldiers took Jesus into the governor's palace and gathered around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and then twisted together a crown of thorns and rammed it on his head.
They put a staff in his right hand and knelt in front of him and mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews."
They spat on him, and they took the staff and struck him on the head again and again. After they beaten him up, they led him away to crucify him.
When they came to the place where they executed people called Golgotha, or the place of the skull, they nailed Jesus up onto the cross.
The Jewish rulers amongst the crowd sneered at Jesus, saying, "If you are so wonderful, the King of Jews, save yourself."
Pilate had an inscription in Greek, Latin, and Hebrew, written on a bit of wood and put over Jesus' head on the cross. It read, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." Jesus prayed to God, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they are doing."
Two thieves were being crucified at the same time as Jesus, one on the right and one on the left. One of the criminals who hung next to Jesus hurled insults at him. "Aren't you the Christ? Why don't you save yourself and us too?" But the other thief disagreed with him and said, "Aren't you afraid of God, since you are under the same sentence? We are being punished because we did wrong things, but this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said to Jesus, "Remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus told him, "I tell you the truth, today you will be with me in heaven."
This happened about noon, and from then until 3 p.m. it was dark because the sun did not shine. Then Jesus cried out in a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Then he cried out again, "It is finished," and breathed his last breath.
The curtain of the temple was torn from two, from top to bottom. There was an earthquake which split the rocks, tombs were opened, and many people rose from the dead. A Roman centurion was watching Jesus, heard his cry, and felt the earth shake, and saw how he died. He said, "Surely this man was the Son of God." Hi everyone.
An important Jewish council member called Joseph of Arimathea asked Pilate for Jesus' body. He and Nicodemus took Jesus' body and wrapped it in strips of cloth. Near the place where Jesus was crucified, there was a garden that Joseph owned, and in the garden was a tomb that no one else had ever used. So they buried Jesus in this tomb. The Romans put their best guards at the tomb, and the Jewish leaders had a massive stone rolled in front of it to stop Jesus' followers from stealing the body and saying that he had come back to life.
Early on Sunday morning, Mary Magdalene, one of Jesus' followers, and some other women went to the tomb to put spices onto the body to stop it smelling. When they got to the tomb, they discovered that the stone had been rolled away from the entrance. They wondered what had happened. Suddenly, 2 men dressed in white robes that glowed appeared in the tomb. The women were very frightened, but the men said, "He is not here. He has risen just as he said." Then the women remembered what Jesus had said.
The women left the tomb and went to tell the disciples about what had happened. Peter and John got up and ran to the tomb and found it empty with only strips of cloth lying in it. When they saw the empty grave, they believed that Jesus had risen.
Jesus revealed himself to his followers many times. After he was raised from the dead, he showed them his pierced hands where the nails had gone in, and his side that had been pierced, and they believed it was him alive.
Jesus explained why he had died and that he would soon go back to heaven. He died for the sins of people. He was buried and rose again to defeat the power of death for those who have faith in him and believe in him and follow him. He told them to go and tell other people about him. He also explained that he would send a helper, the Holy Spirit, to live in and to help all of Jesus' followers.
Many days after Jesus rose from the dead, he got his followers together. He prayed for them, and while doing so, he was taken back up into heaven. Happy Easter!
Happy Easter!